Okay, so in this question, we have if the sine of x minus 80 is equal to negative root 3 over 2, and we're looking between 180 and 360, so we're somewhere in quadrants 3 and 4. And actually that makes perfect sense, because if the sine is negative, yeah, we could be here or we could be there, then the value of x to the nearest degree is what? Okay, so the way I like to typically solve these problems here is, let's just take a quick look at this. Let's just ignore right now the x minus 80. Just for the time being, it is inside the trig function. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to deal with the trig on the outside first, and then work my way into. So we're just going to say let the sine of a equal negative root 3 over 2, and we're going to let a equal x minus 80. Okay, so sine of a is equal to negative root 3 over 2. That puts us in quadrants 3 and 4. We already knew that. My reference angle here in degrees is going to be 60 degrees. Okay, so yeah, sine of 60 degrees would be root 3 over 2. So now we're going to put we're going to put 60 degrees in those two quadrants. So I know that A is either going to equal 240 degrees in quadrant 3, and I'm going to do this in general. Now, I don't have to do it in a general form. For this particular question, it's not necessary. But for questions that are of this form, it's frequently useful to do this in general form. So we're going to go 240 plus n times 360, where n is an element of the integers. And then we're also going to have 300 degrees plus n 360, where n is an element of the integers. And here are my answers. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace a. I'm going to go back to x minus 80. So it's going to be x minus 80 is equal to 240 plus n times 360, where n is an element of the integers, or that's equal to 300 degrees plus n times 360, where n is an element of the integers. And now I'm going to bring it over. So x could be 320 degrees plus n times 360, where n is an element of the integers, or it could be 380 plus n times 360, where n is an element of the integers. Whoops. Okay, so now I've got an expression for x, and it's broken up into two parts here. And we know, I made a comment before that x needed to be between 180 degrees and 360 degrees, and I was actually talking about the angle A. Actually, that wasn't true. There could have been some shifting there, but x ultimately has to be within 180 to 360. Sorry, I misspoke at the beginning there. Now, 320 is in that domain. 380 is outside of that domain. Now, but there are an infinite number of angles here, and so when one angle gets kind of pushed out of the domain, sometimes something gets pulled in at the back end here. And so to do that, what I can do here is I can kind of check. But it turns out if you subtract 360 from 380, you're only going to get 20 degrees. That's still a first quadrant angle. That doesn't put anything into the third quadrant or the fourth quadrant. So 320 is the answer that we're looking for here.